Growing up in the late 90s, I was a huge fan of Nintendo, and more particularly, the Super Mario Bros. Ever since playing Mario 64, I became completely hooked on the adventures of that mustachioed plumber, and like the greedy little urchin I was, I wanted to get my grubby little mitts on any and all Mario media that was available to me. Unfortunately though, for 10-year-old me, Mario toys were not nearly as abundant as they are now. So imagine 10-year-old me's surprise when I stumbled across this DVD in my local store. A Mario cartoon? I knew there was a Mario movie, but a cartoon? My 10-year-old mind was completely blown. I had come to find out I had somehow missed this cartoon's existence for a whole decade of my life. So today, with Illumination's Mario movie just on the horizon as of recording this, I figured it would be a good time to look back at the history of how this weird but super show came to be.
Hey, Paisanos, it's the history of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show!
The year was 1989. Nintendo was on top of the world. The NES was the best-selling video game console, trailed only by the Game Boy. Super Mario Bros. 2 had just been released the year prior, and Nintendo was struggling to keep up with demand in the US market. Enter DiC Entertainment with an idea. A Super Mario Bros. Cartoon. This actually wasn't Mario's first foray into the world of animation. In fact, Mario was first welcomed to Toontown back in 1983 as part of Ruby Spears Productions' Saturday Supercade. In the Donkey Kong segments, Mario was voiced by Peter Cullen, better known today for voicing Optimus Prime. The show focused on Mario and Pauline's attempts to capture Donkey Kong and bring him back to the circus. The Supercade also featured a Donkey Kong Jr. cartoon with some odd catchphrases. And now we flash back to the late 80s. DiC Entertainment's Andy Hayward approached Nintendo of America's senior vice president, Howard Lincoln, about possibly working together. If you're a fellow child of the 80s and 90s, then the name DiC is probably super familiar to you. But if not, here's just a few of the shows that they produced. However, Nintendo was a bit hesitant to agree to a cartoon. They were already having issues keeping up with the Mario mania sweeping the US, and the last thing they needed was something to make demand even higher. If DiC wanted Mario, they'd need to impress Nintendo and pull together a great team. Not only that, but they would actually need to pay Nintendo royalties. We begged and pleaded, and we brought together a creative team that they were very impressed with, and we said we felt we could produce good entertainment that would be viewed independently of the game. They finally agreed, but we have to pay them a royalty, and a very healthy one, which is unheard of in the kid business. It's always the other way around. Nintendo ultimately saw the value in creating a Mario cartoon, using it as a way to market him further to the youth of America. There was one small problem though. At the time, there actually wasn't much more to Mario than the mustache. One of the show's producers, John Gruce, told me, "Remember that in the initial video games, the characters were just icons that moved around the screen. From the game, there was some established personality in the way they looked and moved, but that was about it. We had to turn them into living, breathing characters with individual personalities who had to interact with each other and the world around them." Scriptwriter Perry Martin also recalled difficulties in the writing process of the show. The Bible was written by Bruce and Reed Shelley. Reading it, you could tell they were still struggling to get a handle on the show. There are no real characters or stories in a Nintendo game, so how do you turn one into a TV series? In order to give Mario and his friends things to do, the writers often turn to classic literature, films, or historical events for the plots of the episodes, inserting the Mario cast into various parodies. This decision ultimately came from Andy Hayward. Deadlines were looming, and they needed to get some plots figured out quick. While Nintendo had to give their approvals along the way, once they had faith in the team, they actually did give the story editors a fair amount of freedom. Of course, Nintendo had to agree with the characterizations at both the concept stage and certainly the first few scripts. After Nintendo was comfortable with the direction, I believe there was less concern, but we still got approvals and they were never not involved. With all of that in mind, I think our story editors had a lot of free rein once everyone was happy with the direction. The show Bible ultimately determined that Mario himself would be adventurous and brave with a weakness for food. Luigi would be a bit more timid, but kind of a voice of reason at times. Princess Toadstool was a princess, but also adventurous. Toad was used in sort of a sarcastic comedic relief role, while King Koopa was written to be a pompous blowhard who antagonized the Mario Bros at every turn. With the show coming together, attention turned to the prospect of having live-action segments. When it came to children's television in the 80s, one name stood out among the rest. Pee Wee Herman. Pee Wee's Playhouse was immensely popular since it had started in 1986 and had actually won several Emmys. It was decided that the developing Super Show would have a live-action segment inspired by what Pee Wee's Playhouse had done. Not only that, but it would also need the same producer. Enter Steve Binder. To say that Steve Binder has had a prolific career would be an understatement. From producing Elvis's 1968 comeback special to the Star Wars holiday special, yes, that holiday special, Binder has been involved with a lot of notable projects. I was fortunate enough to be able to speak with Steve about his time on the Super Show. He actually informed me that prior to working on the Super Show, he had worked with Deke on a children's program known as Zoobilee Zoo. He got a call from the president of Deke asking him to get involved with the production of the Super Show. He later found out that his role was a bit more important than he was initially led to believe, telling me, "I had never realized that before the phone call was made, I was a condition in Deke making this deal. They were told they would only buy the series if I was involved, but I never knew that when I did the series." Now that the show was set on having a live-action component, it needed its Mario and Luigi. When it came to Mario himself, only one name came to mind. Deke had worked with Captain Lou Albano previously on Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling. Albano was a popular wrestler who appeared in several films as well as Cyndi Lauper music videos. Albano was somewhat hesitant to take the role at first, but was later convinced by his wife. Unfortunately for him, the role included the shaving of his trademark beard as a non-negotiable term.
And I didn't want to shave it off. I mean, I was used to the wrestling with a rubber band in my beard and this and that. The guy looked at me and said, "You can't go with that." I said, "I don't want to know that."
When it came time for Luigi,
Ouija time!
Deke cast Danny Wells, an actor with a reoccurring role of Charlie the Bartender on The Jeffersons, as well as several other roles in Deke cartoons. With their Mario and Luigi cast and ready to go, it was time to figure out what hilarious hijinks those brothers would get into. With the cartoon portions leaning into parody, surely writing the live-action segments should be simple, right?
Uh-oh! Uh-oh!
Steve Binder forwarded me on to Dennis Rosenblatt, one of the directors who had actually worked on the live-action segments. He filled me in a little bit more on the production of those bits, but he wanted to clarify he was brought in a little later into pre-production. When it came to writing the scripts for the live-action segments, Binder's company was responsible for half of the scripts, with Deke being responsible for the other half. Binder hired Danny Simon, a television writer who had written for The Carol Burnett Show, among many others, to come in and help punch up the scripts that Binder's company had written. It was actually a wonderful experience. I went over to his office and we would sit and go through the scripts, and he would do his thing and he was great. However, this wonderful experience would come to an abrupt end when the scripts that Deke had developed were delivered. Upon reading them, Danny quit that same day. The scripts that Deke had delivered were in super rough shape and seemingly unfilmable. The scripts had mostly been written by animators who were unfamiliar with the constraints of live action. There were examples of them writing things like, "Now the entire studio floods with water," or other unfilmable events occurring to the Mario Bros.
Now, reality can be whatever I want.
Uh-oh!
Not only that, but the scripts were either lacking story structure or had their basis around something that seemed a bit odd to place on a children's program. They would have stuff like a Gorbachev lookalike enters the studio, and they were going to tackle him and try to rub his birthmark off his forehead. Because you know the one thing that American kids loved more than Mario? Sticking it to the USSR. Even with these less than ideal scripts, production schedule dictated that they had to move straight on to shooting, with no time for significant edits. The team would do table reads with the cast on set immediately before shooting the scenes. The cast would be puzzled as they read what they were supposed to do in each scene. Albano and Wells wound up improvising a lot of the script on the spot, sort of creating their own stories very loosely based on the scripts. Danny was very good, and he was a smart guy. And he would say, what was the intent? What were they going for here? If this is A and it was heading to B, let's see what we can do with that. And basically, we would improvise the script and remake a story that had 3 acts. Spoiler alert, crazy production schedules are going to become a theme here. Through all the crazy scripts, Dennis was able to find one enjoyable thing that stuck with him about the experience. Danny Simon was a pro. Going through the scripts with him, there weren't a lot of wonderful experiences from that. but being able to sit down and work with him and learn from him was great. The live-action segments largely feature Mario and Luigi running their plumbing business in Brooklyn and dealing with common everyday plumber issues, like Frankenstein switching Mario's brain or orphans showing up and swindling them. Quick break on that last one. So years ago, me and my friend were watching through this series, and we came to that episode, The Day of the Orphan. And we just could not stop laughing at how abrupt and just melodramatic that title card was. Despite the difficult production, the show was able to find a large amount of celebrity guests who would visit the Bros from week to week. These plumber pop-ins included the likes of Ernie Hudson, Magic Johnson, Cyndi Lauper, Sergeant Slaughter, Moon Zappa, and even Inspector Gadget himself. Danny Wells later revealed that Deke never sought guests for the show, they came calling to them. All those guest stars asked to be on the show. We never went after anybody. They all asked to be on the show because all of them had kids, and the kids were crazy about the Mario Brothers. This was a change for them to be on something their kids could see them on. It was very easy to get guest stars. Everyone in Hollywood wanted to be on that show. The live-action segment was also used to give a preview of that week's Legend of Zelda cartoon, with new episodes of Zelda airing each Friday. There's actually a lot to the Zelda cartoon by itself, so that's something I might do another video detailing the production of. As the show went on, Albano as Mario proved to be so popular that he even went on to star in some weirdly intimidating PSAs.
And if you do drugs, you go to hell before you die. Guns and knives can kill. I'm telling it to you.
You knew it was stolen. I hope you'd say no.
You know the police can't stop crime without your help.
In 1990, after the initial run of the show, the live-action segments starring Albano and Wells were removed and replaced with shorts called Club Mario. These segments here have to be some of the most painfully 90s things I have ever seen. These shorts featured Mario-obsessed teenagers hijacking the Signal broadcast and taking over hosting duties. Club Mario proved to be so unpopular, it was discontinued after one season, bringing back the original Albano and Wells segments. The cartoon generally focuses on the adventures of the Mario Bros, along with Princess Toadstool and Toad. They explore the Mushroom Kingdom after Mario and Luigi were transported there while working on the drain. While exploring, they run into King Koopa's various schemes to take over different parts of the kingdom. As mentioned earlier, the plots of the episodes are often parodies of classic literature, movies, or historical events. Wait a second. So you're trying to tell me that George Washington didn't actually fight for our freedoms? Then what was that musical about?
George Washington. My name is George Washington.
Now, when it came to the process of animation itself, here's where our old friend, rushed production schedules, comes back into the picture. The animators were under pressure to complete 65 episodes in less than a year. For comparison's sake, an episode of The Simpsons produced in 2023 with all of our digital technology takes approximately 5 to 6 months. I know that The Simpsons are 21 to 24 minute episodes as opposed to the shorter length of the Super Show, but even still, it's crazy. Hey, so word just came down from corporate that we're shooting for around 65 episodes or so, and as for the timeline, we're looking to have these done by the end of the year. Bye! In order to compensate for the breakneck production speed, animators had to stick to simple, non-dynamic shots of the characters, sort of coincidentally mimicking the gameplay of the games in the process. Dan Reba, the animation director for the Super Show, gave some insight into the production woes. The production was so tight that we had to keep it flat and simple so the animation wouldn't suck. That was the idea. Many headshots, it looks really simple. I begged for some dimensional shots, it was trying to keep it as left to right as possible. When it came to designing the cast themselves, Nintendo provided Deke with style guides that were seemingly inspired by Osamu Tezuka, who was in turn inspired by early Disney and Fleischer cartoons. Normally I'd put a clip here of some examples of Disney cartoons, but I really don't want to get sued, so have this instead. I was able to talk a bit with Dan Reba via email, and he filled me in a bit more on the design process. He really wanted to go all in on this Disney Fleischer look, opting to give the characters pie-cut eyes to really make it feel like an old cartoon. Reba also really wanted to give the Bros streamlined hands, with four-fingered Mickey Mouse-style gloves, but Nintendo gave this a hard no. This is due to the connotation a four-fingered hand has with the Yakuza in Japan. Yep, you heard that right. The Yakuza had an effect on the character design of a Mario Brothers cartoon.
Remember, guns and knives can kill. I'm telling it to you.
いつまで脳が鍛えてんだ。さっさとかかってこい。
With those sensibilities in mind, it wasn't actually hard to create other non-Nintendo characters to populate the world of the show, like the fan favorite, Indiana Joe. When it came to the voice cast, aside from the previously mentioned Captain Lou and Danny Wells, you had Jeannie Elias as Princess Toadstool, Harvey Atkin as King Koopa, and John Stocker rounding out the cast as Toad. Musically, the show mainly stuck to themes and sound effects present in the game, and slightly modified them to fit the show's purpose. This brings us to one of the most iconic and glorious parts of the show, the rap.
With the Mario Brothers and plumbing's a game. We're not like the others who get all the fame. If your sink is in trouble, you can call us on the double. We're faster than the others, you'll be hooked on the brothers.
So I have been on a hunt, my friends, and as of recording this, I have been unsuccessful. I need to know who the performers are on the rap, and because I stress about stupid things, it haunts my dreams. The rap theme was written by Shuki Levy, who wrote tons of other classic cartoon themes such as Inspector Gadget, He-Man, Power Rangers, among many others. I tried getting in contact with him, but haven't had any luck so far. If this changes after I post this video, right, everything looks good, and post. Oh look, an email. I'll make an update video with what I learned. I asked John Gruz if he knew who performed on the track. He stated that it was most likely session artists, with no individual credits being given. Saban was contracted to do the music and the theme song. I liked what they came up with because it was bouncy and energetic, like we wanted the show to be. There are also two different versions of the rap intro.
With the Mario Brothers and plumbing's a game. We're not like the others who get all the fame. If your sink is in trouble, you can call us on the double. We're faster than the others, you'll be hooked on the brothers. Yo, it's the Mario Brothers and plumbing's the game. Found the secret water zone while working on the drain. Lend the princess a hand in the mushroom land. Join the action with the plumbers, you'll be hooked on the brothers.
So if any of you out there happen to know who the performers were on the track, please feel free to contact me. Please, I can't sleep anymore and my life is falling apart. All my dreams are about the Super Mario Brothers. I've become hooked on the brothers, and my life is just one eternal nightmare, and I can't sleep anymore, and it's just a whole... Not only did we get that absolute banger of a rap song, but we also learned a dance that would forever change our lives.
Do the Mario! Swing your arms from side to side. Come on, it's time to go! Do the Mario!
The end credits of the Super Show feature Albano singing dance instructions over Koji Kondo's Super Mario Bros. Theme. He does this while teleporting across a bizarre desert landscape. This song, along with the rap, have had some incredible staying power within the Nintendo and Super Mario communities. But I mean, how can you not love this? Something I didn't expect while working on this video was to come across evidence of a cancelled 1990 animated Super Mario Bros. Film produced by DiC. I found numerous newspaper articles mentioning that the film was on the horizon, with a release date of summer 1990. Does this mean we could have gotten a more accurate Mario movie? What the heck?
They're brothers. They're plumbers. Oh no. Mario! Luigi! Super Mario Brothers. This ain't no game.
I asked John if he remembered anything about the film or how far it had come into production. He said that this was actually the first he had heard of a Mario feature back then. His best guess was that this was something that was discussed or even possibly mentioned to the press as a way to build up hype for the show. As if the youth of America suffering from Mario Mania needed even more to be hyped about.
Holy cannoli, kids, I'm Mario, and I'm telling you, if you're not watching the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, you're gonna turn into a Goomba.
That happens a lot in Hollywood, as everyone is blue-skying the possibilities when the initial deals are being made. It might have been true at the moment, and some preliminary work done, but it fell through or was abandoned soon after for any number of good reasons. Maybe they decided to table the idea until after the initial series. I'm just guessing here. It reminds me of the old Hollywood adage, no matter what you heard or read, don't believe it until the check clears. I asked Dan Reba the same question about the film. He didn't have any recollection of it, and once again our friend rushed production came into the picture. We were under a lot of pressure to deliver the show in time for the fall. The production time was very short, and the only way we could make the show in time was to do them as 10-minute shorts and have a live-action wraparound show. So thanks a lot, Rushed Production. You're the reason we wound up with... The Super Show aired new episodes daily, with Fridays being reserved for the latest Zelda cartoon. The show was earning high ratings, but was cancelled by Deacon Nintendo in 1990 after 52 episodes. It ran from September 4th, 1989 to November 30th of the same year. This was in order to promote the upcoming Super Mario Bros. 3 with a new cartoon, to be soon followed by Super Mario World. Outside of the voice actors for Koopa and Toad, none of the cast reprised their roles in the later cartoons. The show's cancellation surprised Albano and Wells. The show was just cancelled, not because the numbers weren't good. We were number 1. Just Nintendo said, "Okay, we're done, thank you." That was the end of it. Lou and I looked at each other. We couldn't believe it. We just couldn't believe it. The show was placed into syndication several times throughout the early 90s, with one such time being the Club Mario run mentioned earlier. Another run was known as Mario All-Stars and was shown on the Family Channel and later the USA Network. These were just essentially episodes of the Super Show packaged with episodes of Super Mario World. Eventually this programming block would be replaced altogether by Sonic SatAM, because...
What Nintendo?
When it comes to home media, there's been various releases done throughout the years. Originally, the series was released on VHS during its actual run by Kids Classics through a Nesquik sponsorship deal. This continued with further releases through '93 by Good Time Entertainment, Kid Classics' parent company. Several other companies have released VHS and DVDs over the years, with the first DVD release being this guy right here in 2002. See, it all comes full circle. The full series was released by Shout Factory in 2006, but was ultimately discontinued after Shout's deal with Cookie Jar Entertainment expired. The rights for these shows are always kind of weird. You think you understand who owns them, but then when you look into it, it's like Flim Flam Inc. bought this from Snickerdoodle LLC in some form of a hostile takeover, and, well, I'm just not going to pretend that I understand business. From what I've been able to gather, the show's rights now belong to Wild Brain Entertainment, the same people who are making Sonic Prime for Netflix. Captain Lou Albano would later pass away in 2009, with Danny Wells passing away in 2013. The show established several things that are still referenced in Mario media to this day. One such thing is the brothers being from Brooklyn. I've looked and looked, but I can't find any documentation from Nintendo prior to the Super Show stating they're from Brooklyn. I looked at like the manuals for Donkey Kong and Mario Brothers. I figured they live in a city, right? Maybe it's in there. It's one of those things that I don't think it was ever established as Brooklyn. Another first in the show is the introduction of the brothers' last name as Mario. I know a lot of people credit the '93 movie for this, but I've actually found several examples of episodes where their last name is stated to be Mario.
Wow! This certificate does hereby entitle Luigi Mario to a free dance lesson from Shabba-Doo!
And with Miyamoto seemingly accepting this last name in 2015, I have to say the Super Show might just be the first example of their names being Mario Mario and Luigi Mario. The Mario franchise needs no explanation. It's experienced continuous success to this day. Now with a movie on the horizon and a new theme park in Universal Studios, it seems like it can only go up from here. Even in Mario's new film, we can find references to the Super Show. From the theme song being used in the trailer, to Mario and Luigi's Brooklyn roots, and even Princess Toadstool's voice actress Jeannie Elias being used in the trailer. Even though it released nearly 35 years ago, the impact of the Super Show can still be felt in the Mushroom Kingdom today. And now, I think there's only one thing left to do.
Do the Mario! Swing your arms from side to side. Come on, it's time to go! Do the Mario!
Wait a minute. Cut. Where'd he go?
Go to hell before you die.
Hey guys, thanks for watching, and I just want to give a huge shout out to Dan Riva, Steve Binder, Dennis Rosenblatt, and John Gruz for taking time out of their day to speak with me about their time on the Super Show. If you like what you see, swing your arms on over to that subscribe button, and comment with what other videos you'd like to see from me. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you have a super day. I hate myself.